The security camera caught everything. Claire Patterson's hands shook as she counted $68 in crumpled bills. Her daughter's asthma medication money. She slid it across the counter. $12.50. That's what an elderly woman's dignity cost that Tuesday night at Rosewood Diner in Cedar Falls, Oregon. Dorothy Wainwright had eaten chicken soup with trembling hands and couldn't pay. So Claire paid. 3 years of serving coffee and swallowing insults, and this one choice destroyed everything. In his back office, Mr. Garrett's face turned red. He watched the screen. His fist hit the desk. 30 seconds later, Claire was fired. Not for kindness. For theft, he called it. In front of 20 customers, he called her a thief. She walked out with $347.82, her final paycheck, and 9 days until eviction. 24 hours later, a black Mercedes pulled up to the closed diner. The engine purred. The door opened. Thomas Caldwell stepped onto wet pavement in a suit worth more than Claire's yearly rent. A leather briefcase. A lawyer beside him. He stared at the dark windows where Claire had worked herself invisible for 3 years, where she'd perfected the art of serving without being seen, until one grandmother's unpaid bill made her impossible to ignore. What Mr. Garrett didn't know was who Dorothy really was. What Thomas Caldwell was about to do would change everything. Subscribe now to see how one moment of compassion rewrites everything. Because the most powerless person in that diner was about to become the most valuable. Claire's alarm screamed at 4:47 a.m. She hit it before the second beep. In the next room, Emma couldn't wake up coughing. Not yet. Not if Claire moved fast enough. She dressed in the dark. Black pants, white shirt, the uniform she'd worn for 3 years. Her apartment in Cedar Falls smelled like the mold she couldn't afford to fix. The kitchen faucet dripped. She'd stopped hearing it months ago. Emma's backpack sat by the door. Lunch packed. Homework folder. The inhaler she needed twice a day. Claire checked it. Half full. She had maybe 10 days left before she'd need to refill the prescription. $68. The pharmacy didn't take payment plans. By 5:15 a.m., they were in the car. Emma slept in the passenger seat, her small chest rising and falling. Claire drove through empty streets to the early drop-off program at Lincoln Elementary. The teacher took Emma's hand. Claire watched her daughter disappear inside. Then she drove to Rosewood Diner. She clocked in at 5:58 a.m., 2 minutes early. Mr. Garrett docked pay if you were even 30 seconds late. The diner sat on the corner of 4th and Madison. It used to be nice. That was before Garrett bought it in 2019. Now the booths had duct tape over the tiers. The neon sign blinked, Rosewood Diner. The middle letters died 2 years ago. Garrett said fixing it wasn't worth the cost. Claire tied her apron. She checked her locker before her shift started. Inside, hidden under her spare uniform, was a stethoscope. She'd kept it from nursing school. Sometimes she held it and remembered who she used to be. A student with a 3.9 GPA. A woman with a future. That was 6 years ago, before her husband left, before she dropped out to work double shifts and keep Emma fed. She closed the locker. The morning crowd arrived. Garrett watched from his office window. He always watched. He kept a notebook of mistakes. You dropped a fork. You forgot to smile. You took a bathroom break that lasted 6 minutes instead of 5. He wrote it all down. The tips went into a jar by the register. Garrett counted them at the end of every shift. He took 40% for management fees. The number wasn't legal. Everyone knew it. No one said anything. Jobs were hard to find in Cedar Falls. The lumber mill had closed. The furniture factory moved to Mexico. You worked where you could. You kept your mouth shut. Miguel worked the kitchen. Hannah worked the floor. They'd been there longer than Claire. They knew the rules. Keep your head down. Serve the food. Survive another day. By 5:47 p.m., Claire had been on her feet for 11 hours. The dinner rush hit at 6. The diner filled with noise. Forks scraping plates. The coffee machine hissing. Someone's baby crying in booth 3. The door opened. An elderly woman stepped inside. She wore a navy coat that had seen better years. Her hair was white and carefully curled. She held a small leather purse against her chest. Claire grabbed a menu. Just one tonight? The woman nodded. Her hand shook slightly. Claire led her to booth 7 by the window. The woman sat slowly, like her joints hurt. Claire poured water. The woman's eyes followed the glass. Grateful, tired. What can I get you? Claire asked. Chicken soup, please. And coffee. Black. Claire wrote it down. As she turned to leave, light caught something on the woman's coat. A brooch, gold with small green stones arranged in a flower pattern. It looked expensive, old, the kind of thing you inherited. The woman saw Claire looking. She touched the brooch gently. My mother-in-law's. I wear it when I need to feel brave. Claire smiled. It's beautiful. She brought the order to Miguel. He ladled soup into a bowl. Claire carried it back with the coffee. The woman ate slowly, small spoonfuls. She kept glancing out the window at the rain. 40 minutes passed. The woman set down her spoon. She'd finished half the soup. The coffee cup was empty. Claire brought the check. $12.50. The woman opened her purse. Her hands moved through it. Once, twice. Her face changed. Color drained from her cheeks. I'm so sorry. Her voice cracked. I must have miscalculated my grocery money this week. She looked up at Claire. Her eyes were wet. I'm so embarrassed. Claire's chest tightened. She knew that look. She'd worn it herself. At the pharmacy counter. At the electric company. Standing in line at the food bank. She glanced toward Garrett's office. He wasn't watching. Not yet. It's okay, Claire said quietly. I can come back tomorrow. I can bring the money then. I promise. Claire thought of Emma. The inhaler. The $68 in tips folded in her apron pocket. It was medication money. It was survival. She looked at the woman's hands. They were grandmother's hands, wrinkled and spotted and shaking. Sometimes we all need a little grace, Claire said. She reached into her apron. She pulled out the bills. 3 20s, 1 5, 3 1s. She counted $12.50. She set it on the table. Please, the woman whispered. I can't let you. It's already done. The woman's eyes filled. Bless you. Claire picked up the check. She walked to the register. Her hands were steady. Her heart wasn't. She rang it up as paid. The drawer opened. She put the money inside. Behind her, she didn't hear Garrett's office door open. What did you just do? His voice came from behind her. Claire turned. Garrett stood 3 feet away. His face was red. His jaw was tight. A customer paid her bill, Claire said calmly. Don't lie to me. I watched the whole thing on camera. He pointed toward his office. You paid for her meal with tip money. That's theft. The diner went quiet. Every customer turned to look. Miguel appeared in the kitchen window. Hannah froze mid-pour with a coffee pot. It wasn't theft, Claire said. I used my own money. Tip money belongs to the restaurant until you clock out. You stole from my register. That's not true. I covered a customer's bill. You're a thief. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear. A bleeding heart thief who thinks she's better than the rules. Heat flooded Claire's face. Her nails bit into her palms. I've worked here for 3 years. I've never stolen anything. Miguel, you saw it. Hannah, you saw it. Garrett looked at them. Tell me what you did. Miguel stared at his shoes. Hannah's hand shook. The coffee pot rattled against the cup. That's what I thought, Garrett said. Get your things. You're done. Claire's throat closed. Please, I need this job. Should have thought of that before you played charity worker with my money. She thought of Emma, the rent, the eviction notice already taped to her door. 9 days. She had 9 days to come up with $890. I'll pay you back. I'll work an extra shift. Please. Get out of my restaurant. Claire's vision blurred. She walked to the back. Her hands shook as she opened her locker. The stethoscope sat on top of her spare uniform. She left it there. That version of herself was already dead. She took her jacket. She walked to the office where Garrett waited with her final paycheck. He'd already printed it. $347.82. 2 weeks of work, minus his fees. She took the check. She walked past the customers who wouldn't look at her, past Miguel and Hannah who couldn't help her. The elderly woman stood by the door. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Claire couldn't answer. If she spoke, she'd break. She walked out into the rain. Behind her, she didn't know someone in booth 7 had been watching everything. Thomas Caldwell had ordered coffee 2 hours ago. It sat cold in front of him. He'd barely touched it. He'd come to Cedar Falls for his documentary, Authentic American Values. That's what his producer called it. 6 months traveling to small towns, sitting in diners, watching people, finding stories about ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things. He'd expected to film for a week, interview some locals, get some footage of Main Street. He hadn't expected this. His phone sat on the table. He'd recorded the whole thing. The elderly woman's embarrassment, the waitress's choice, the firing, all of it. His chest felt tight. His hands had formed fists without him noticing. The manager disappeared into his office. The other customers went back to their meals, like nothing had happened, like they hadn't just watched someone lose everything for being kind. Thomas picked up his phone. He opened his contacts. He scrolled to a name, Richard Chin, attorney. The call connected. Richard, it's Thomas. I need you to do something. He stood. He walked to where the elderly woman still stood by the door. She looked shaken, confused. Excuse me, Thomas said gently. I saw what happened. Can I give you a ride somewhere? She looked at him with wet eyes. I don't understand why she did that. Thomas looked at her brooch. Gold, green stones, antique. He'd seen that brooch before. He couldn't remember where. He took a photo. Let me help you get home. We need to talk. 24 hours after the firing, Claire had applied to 17 jobs. Her laptop sat open on the kitchen table. The screen glowed in the dark apartment. Emma was asleep in the next room. Indeed.com monster. Craigslist. She filled out applications until her eyes burned. Fast food, gas stations, grocery stores, anything. The automated responses came within minutes. We regret to inform you. Your application does not meet our current needs. We have selected other candidates. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Ms. Patterson? This is Nancy from Lincoln Elementary. I'm calling about Emma. Claire's stomach dropped. Is she okay? She had an asthma attack during recess. We used the emergency inhaler, but she mentioned she's been having more trouble breathing at night. Has she seen her doctor recently? Claire pressed her palm against her forehead. I'll make an appointment. She also mentioned you're between jobs right now. I wanted to let you know about our assistance program. We're fine. Thank you. Claire hung up. Her hand shook. Between jobs. Like she'd chosen this. Like she decided to pay for a stranger's soup and destroy her daughter's stability. She checked her bank account. $214. The rent was $890. Due in 8 days. The inhaler prescription was $68. Emma needed new shoes. Her soles had holes. The eviction notice stared at her from the counter. She'd read it 17 times. The words never changed. Her phone buzzed again. Text from Hannah. Hey, you okay? Weird thing happened. Some rich guy came in today asking questions about you and that old lady. Drove a Mercedes. Had an expensive suit. Asked Miguel where you lived. We didn't tell him anything. Just thought you should know. Claire read the message 3 times. A rich guy. Questions about her. Her chest tightened. Was Garrett pressing charges? Was this about theft? She typed back. What kind of questions? Hannah's response came fast. About what happened. About why you paid for her. About how long you worked here. Miguel said he felt like he was being interviewed for a documentary or something. Super weird. Claire set down the phone. A knock at the door made her jump. She looked through the peephole. A woman stood in the hallway. Older. Professional clothes. She held a clipboard. Claire opened the door, but kept the chain on. Yes. Claire Patterson? I'm from Cascade County Food Assistance. Your name was referred to us by Lincoln Elementary. I have some resources for families experiencing temporary hardship. We don't need assistance. The woman smiled kindly. There's no shame in needing help. We're fine. Claire closed the door. She leaned against it. Her throat was tight. Her eyes burned. Through the wall, she could hear Emma coughing in her sleep. Tomorrow she'd visit the food bank. She'd swallow her pride. She'd do whatever it took. But tonight, she let herself feel it. The weight of one choice. The cost of compassion. The punishment for being human. Her phone buzzed one more time. Another automated rejection. Thomas sat in his downtown Portland hotel room. His laptop displayed the facial recognition results. It had taken his private investigator 6 hours. Dorothy Wainwright, 81 years old. Last known address: Riverside Memory Care Facility, Portland, Oregon. Reported missing 48 hours ago. Dorothy Wainwright was listed as her legal name, but the system showed a previous name: Dorothy Caldwell. Thomas stared at the screen. His mother's maiden name was Dorothy and Caldwell. She'd remarried after his father died, a man named Henry Wainwright. Thomas hadn't attended the wedding. That was 14 years ago. He clicked through the records. The address matched. Riverside Memory Care. That's where he'd moved her 2 years ago, after the diagnosis, after the fights, after she'd looked at him like he was a stranger. He picked up his phone. He called the facility. Riverside Memory Care, this is Jennifer. This is Thomas Caldwell. I'm calling about my mother, Dorothy Wainwright. I understand she went missing 2 days ago. Silence on the line. Mr. Caldwell. Yes. We've been trying to reach you. She wandered off during an activity period. We filed a police report. We've been searching. I found her. She's safe. Oh, thank God. Where is she? Cedar Falls. 40 miles away. How did she get that far? We don't know. She must have walked to the bus station. Mr. Caldwell, we're so sorry. She's been increasingly confused. The dementia is progressing. She keeps talking about needing to go home. We think she means the house where she raised you. That was in Cedar Falls, correct? Thomas closed his eyes. The house on Maple Street. His childhood home. They'd sold it 12 years ago, during the inheritance fight, when he'd accused her of favoring his sister, when he'd said things he couldn't take back. Is she hurt? Jennifer asked. No. A waitress at a diner helped her, paid for her meal. That's very kind. Thomas thought of Claire's face, the way she'd handed over her own money without hesitation, the way she'd lost everything for it. I need you to send me her medical records, everything about her condition. Of course. Mr. Caldwell, when can you bring her back? Soon. He hung up. He opened a new search. Claire Patterson, Cedar Falls, Oregon. The results loaded. Nursing student. Portland State University. 3.9 GPA. Dropped out in 2019. Reason, financial hardship. He kept digging. Hospital recommendations from her clinical rotations. One from Dr. Sarah Mitchell at Oregon Health Sciences. Claire demonstrates exceptional diagnostic intuition and patient care. She has a gift for seeing what others miss. What others miss. Thomas opened the video he'd recorded at the diner. He watched it again. Watched Claire interact with his mother. The way she'd noticed the trembling hands. The way she'd seated her by the window where the light was softer. The way she'd poured the water slowly, giving his mother time to track the movement. Those weren't random choices. Those were trained responses. Claire had recognized something. Thomas called his doctor. Michael, it's Thomas. I need a favor. If someone had early-stage dementia, what would the signs be? Depends on the type. Short-term memory loss. Confusion about time and place. Repetitive questions. Emotional volatility. Sometimes patients fixate on routines or objects. Why? What about hand tremors? Common. Motor control deteriorates. They might have trouble with fine movements. Eating. Writing. Thomas watched Claire on the video again. She'd cut his mother's soup portion into smaller bites when she brought it. She'd place a spoon at a specific angle. Michael, if you saw someone manage a dementia patient with that level of skill, what would you think? I'd think they had medical training or a significant caregiving experience. Thomas ended the call. Claire Patterson had provided better care in 10 minutes than his $8,000 per month facility had provided in 2 years. And he'd watched her get fired for it. Thomas returned to Rosewood Diner the next morning. He wore jeans and a worn jacket. No suit. He wanted to blend in. The place looked worse in daylight. The parking lot had potholes. The windows needed washing. Inside, customers hunched over cheap coffee. He sat at the counter. A waitress approached. Hannah, according to her name tag. What can I get you? Coffee. Black. He paused. I was here 2 days ago. I saw what happened with the other waitress. Claire. Hannah's expression closed. Don't know anything about that. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to understand. Mister, best thing you can do is drink your coffee and leave. A voice came from the kitchen window. Hannah, order up. The cook, Miguel. He was watching Thomas. Thomas stood. He walked to the kitchen window. I'm Thomas Caldwell. I'm making a documentary about working-class Americans. What happened to Claire? That's the kind of story people need to hear. Miguel wiped his hands on his apron. You want to help? Talk to a lawyer. Garrett's been stealing from us for years. Stealing how? Miguel glanced toward the office. Tips. Overtime. He fires people right before they qualify for benefits. Happened to 3 people last year. Why hasn't anyone reported him? And say what? He keeps 2 sets of books. Everything looks legal on paper. Thomas pulled out his phone. What if I told you I recorded Claire's firing? What if I told you I have resources to investigate properly? Miguel studied him. Why do you care? The woman Claire helped. That was my mother. Understanding crossed Miguel's face. The old lady with the brooch. She has dementia. She wandered from her care facility. Claire treated her with more dignity in 10 minutes than... Thomas stopped. I owe her, and I'm going to make this right. Hannah appeared beside them. Claire's got a daughter, 6 years old. Asthma. She's going to lose custody if she can't pay rent. Thomas felt something cold settle in his stomach. Where does she live? We're not telling you that. I'm not the enemy. Rich guys always say that. Hannah refilled a coffee cup at the end of the counter. Then they write checks and disappear. Claire doesn't need charity. She needs justice. Thomas set down a business card. That's my attorney. Call him. Tell him everything about Garrett. Every violation. Every theft. I'll cover the legal fees. Miguel picked up the card. Why? Because Claire helped my mother when she didn't have to. Because she lost her job for doing the right thing. And because people like Garrett only get away with this when people like me look the other way. He stood. He left cash for the coffee. As he reached the door, Hannah called out, Mr. Caldwell? He turned. Claire lives at Cedar Ridge Apartments, Building C, Unit 12. But if you're going there, don't insult her. Don't treat her like a project. She's got more dignity than most people I've met. I'll remember that. Thomas walked out to his car. He had an address. He had evidence. Now he needed to decide how to help someone who'd probably refuse. Thomas sat in his Mercedes across from Cedar Ridge Apartments. The building needed paint. The parking lot was cracked. A broken playground sat empty behind a chain-link fence. He'd been sitting there for 20 minutes. His producer's voice echoed in his head. They'd argued for an hour this morning. You can't intervene, Marcus had said. The whole point of the documentary is observing authentic behavior. The moment you get involved, you corrupt the story. A woman lost her job. And that's tragic. But it's not your responsibility. We document. We don't direct. Thomas had hung up. Now he stared at Building C. Unit 12 had a piece of paper taped to the door. Even from the car, he could tell it was an eviction notice. His phone buzzed. His attorney. Richard, what did you find? Your instincts were right. Garrett's operation is dirty. Unpaid payroll taxes. Minimum wage violations. If we audit him properly, he's looking at serious penalties. How long would a case take? 8 months. Maybe a year. These things move slowly. That doesn't help Claire now. Thomas, I know you want to help, but you need to be strategic. If you hand her money, it looks like hush money. If you buy her loyalty, the documentary loses credibility. And legally, it complicates any case she might have against Garrett. Thomas gripped the steering wheel. So what do I do? Build the case properly. Get justice through the system. In the meantime, stay objective. Stay objective. Watch someone lose their home. Watch a 6-year-old lose her mother. All for a documentary about authentic American values. His phone rang again. Riverside Memory Care. Mr. Caldwell, Dorothy's asking for you. She's having a lucid episode. She's asking about the kind waitress with the green eyes. Do you know who she means? Thomas looked at the apartment building. I know exactly who she means. She wants to see her. She keeps saying she needs to thank her properly. That she gave her something important. The brooch. His grandmother's brooch. His mother had given it to Claire. I'll bring Claire to visit, Thomas said. Tomorrow. He ended the call. He opened his car door. He walked across the parking lot to Building C. He climbed the stairs to Unit 12. He raised his hand to knock. He stopped. If he did this, he changed the story. He became part of the narrative instead of its observer. He traded objectivity for intervention. His grandmother's voice echoed in memory. Kindness is the only inheritance worth leaving. Thomas knocked on the door. If you're wondering what happened next, what Claire said when she opened that door, and how one billionaire's choice changed everything, subscribe to this channel. Because sometimes the most important stories are about what we choose when no one's watching. Claire opened the door with the chain still on. A man in an expensive suit stood in the hallway. Not the building manager, someone else. Behind him, a woman in glasses held a leather folder. Claire Patterson? The man's voice was calm, professional. Her stomach dropped. Who are you? My name is Thomas Caldwell. This is my attorney, Richard Chin. I'd like to talk to you about what happened at Rosewood Diner. Claire's hand tightened on the door. I can't afford a lawyer. If Mr. Garrett is suing me, he's not. May we come in? She looked at their faces. They didn't look angry. They looked concerned. She opened the door. Her apartment was small. The couch had a tear in the cushion. Emma's toys were scattered on the floor. The eviction notice sat on the kitchen counter where anyone could see it. Claire didn't apologize for the mess. She crossed her arms. What do you want? Thomas sat on the couch. The attorney stood by the door. The woman you helped at the diner. Dorothy Wainwright. She's my mother. Claire's breath caught. Is she okay? She's safe. She has dementia. She wandered from her care facility in Portland. We've been looking for her for 2 days. I didn't know. You couldn't have known. But you treated her with kindness anyway. Thomas leaned forward. You lost your job because you helped her. I want to make that right. Claire's jaw tightened. I don't want her pity. It's not pity. It's gratitude. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. $5,000 to cover your rent, your daughter's medication, whatever you need. Claire stared at the envelope. $5,000. She could pay her rent, buy Emma new shoes, refill the inhaler prescription. She could breathe again. She looked at Thomas's face, at the expensive watch on his wrist, at the way he held the envelope like it was nothing, like money solved everything. No, she said quietly. Thomas blinked. I'm sorry? Your mother's dignity isn't for sale. Neither is mine. That's not what I'm. You think you can fix this with a check? Make yourself feel better about what happened. Claire's voice stayed level, controlled. I helped your mother because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted payment. The attorney shifted by the door. Thomas set the envelope on the coffee table. Then what do you want? He asked. Claire thought of Dorothy, the trembling hands, the confusion in her eyes, the way she'd eaten her soup in small, careful bites. Your mother needs specialized memory care, Claire said. Not just supervision. She needs routine-based therapy. The same schedule every day. The same faces. Familiar environments trigger memory retention in early-stage dementia patients. Thomas stared at her. How do you know that? I was a nursing student before I dropped out. Claire walked to the window. Your mother also needs family reintegration. Dementia patients do better when they have emotional anchors. People they love. People who love them back. The facility said. The facility is keeping her alive. That's not the same as helping her live. Claire turned to face him. She needs you, not your money. You. Thomas's expression changed. Something cracked beneath the polished surface. I haven't spoken to my mother in 12 years. She doesn't even recognize me half the time. Then you need to give her reasons to remember. Claire's voice softened. Talk about her past. Show her photos. Tell her stories about your grandmother, the woman who owned that brooch your mother was wearing. How did you? She told me it made her feel brave. That means it's connected to someone she loved, someone who made her feel safe. Claire picked up the envelope. She handed it back to Thomas. Your mother doesn't need your guilt money. She needs your son. Thomas took the envelope slowly. His hand shook slightly. The attorney cleared her throat. Mr. Caldwell, we should. Richard? Thomas didn't look away from Claire. How long were you in nursing school? 3 years. I had 1 year left when I dropped out. Why? My husband left when I was pregnant. I had medical bills, student loans. I couldn't afford to finish. Thomas stood. What if I told you I want to help you fight, Garrett? Not with money, with resources, legal support, evidence. Claire's chest tightened. Why would you do that? Because you saw my mother as a human being when she needed help. Because you lost everything for doing the right thing. And because he paused. Because you just taught me more about caring for my mother than 6 months of expensive consultants ever did. Claire looked at the eviction notice on her counter, at Emma's inhaler on the table, at the envelope still in Thomas's hand. I can't let you pay me, she said. I'm not paying you. I'm asking for your help. Work with me. Teach me how to care for my mother properly. In exchange, I'll help you get justice against Garrett. I don't need justice. I need a job. You'll get both. Claire met his eyes. She saw something there she hadn't expected. Desperation. Loss. The same grief she carried every day. Okay, she said quietly. But no checks. No charity. We work together. That's the deal. Thomas nodded. That's the deal. 4 days later, 2 police officers knocked on Claire's door. She opened it with Emma beside her, her daughter pressed against her leg. The officers looked uncomfortable. Claire Patterson? Yes. We need you to come to the station. We have some questions about your employment at Rosewood Diner. Claire's blood went cold. What kind of questions? Mr. Garrett has filed a report claiming you stole $300 from the register on November 15th. We need to take your statement. Emma's hand tightened on Claire's shirt. Mama? It's okay, baby. Claire's voice didn't shake. She looked at the officers. Am I under arrest? Not at this time. But we need you to come with us. Claire called Hannah. Can you watch Emma for an hour? What's wrong? Garrett called the police. Silence on the line. Then, I'll be there in 5 minutes. At the station, they put Claire in a small room with a table and 2 chairs. The fluorescent lights buzzed. A detective came in, middle-aged, tired eyes, a notepad. Ms. Patterson, I'm Detective Williams. I need to ask you about the night of November 15th. Claire folded her hands on the table. I didn't steal anything. Mr. Garrett claims security footage shows you taking money from a register and not recording the transaction. I paid for a customer's meal with my own tip money. I recorded it properly. He says you took $300 over the course of your shift. Claire's jaw clenched. That's a lie. Can you prove that? The security footage shows everything. I put my own money in the register. Not took it out. Detective Williams wrote something down. Mr. Garrett says you've had access to the register for 3 years. He says his bookkeeping shows discrepancies going back months. Heat flooded Claire's face. I've never stolen anything in my life. He also says you've been working with a wealthy individual to harass him, a Thomas Caldwell. Do you know that name? Claire's hands fisted under the table. Thomas Caldwell's mother is the woman I helped. That's the only reason I know him. Mr. Garrett believes you're fabricating a case against him to cover your own theft. That's insane. Is it? The detective leaned back. Convenient that a billionaire shows up right after you get fired. Convenient that you suddenly have expensive legal representation. Convenient that Mr. Garrett is now facing investigation. Claire's nails bit into her palms. I helped an elderly woman who couldn't pay her bill. I got fired for it. That's the truth. Mr. Garrett's lawyer says you've been embezzling for months. Says you targeted his mother, specifically because you knew she had money. I didn't know who she was. But you do now. Claire stood. Am I being charged with something? Not yet. But we're opening an investigation. Don't leave town. The interview lasted 2 hours. They asked the same questions 17 different ways. When Claire finally walked out, her hands were shaking. Hannah was waiting in the lobby with Emma. What happened? They think I stole money. Garrett's lying, and they're believing him. That night, Claire's phone rang. A number she didn't recognize. Ms. Patterson, this is Jennifer from Peak Staffing Solutions. We're calling about your application for the medical assistant position. Unfortunately, we've decided to move forward with other candidates. Can I ask why? We ran a background check. There's a flag for an open police investigation. We can't hire anyone under investigation for theft. I'm sorry. Claire hung up. She checked her email. 3 more rejections, all with the same reason. The police investigation created a public record, even though she hadn't been charged, even though she was innocent. The flag destroyed her job prospects. Her phone buzzed. Text from a Cedar Falls number she didn't know. Heard you got fired for stealing. Stay away from Rosewood Diner. We don't want thieves in this town. Another text. You think you're better than us? Working with some rich guy to destroy a local business? Another con artist. Claire turned off her phone. She sat in the dark apartment. Emma was asleep. The eviction date was 6 days away. Garrett had weaponized the system. He'd filed a false report, knowing it would destroy her. Knowing the investigation itself was punishment. Knowing even if charges never came, the damage was done. Claire had never felt so powerless in her life. The call came at 7:23 a.m. Thomas's voice was urgent. My mother's asking for you. She's having a lucid episode. The facility says they're rare. We need to come now before it passes. Claire hesitated. Thomas, I can't. The police investigation. If I'm seen with your mother, it makes Garrett's story look true. I don't care what Garrett thinks. My mother is awake. She's asking for the waitress with kind eyes. Please. Claire looked at Emma eating cereal at the table, at the eviction notice, at her phone full of hate messages. Okay, give me 30 minutes. Riverside Memory Care Facility smelled like antiseptic and defeat. The walls were beige. The floors were too shiny. Soft music played from hidden speakers. Thomas met her in the lobby. He looked different, tired. His tie was loose. His eyes were red. Thank you for coming. He led her down a hallway to a private room. Dorothy sat in a chair by the window. She wore a lavender cardigan. Her white hair was brushed. The Cartier brooch was pinned to her collar. Dorothy's eyes focused when Claire entered. Her face broke into a smile. The kind waitress, she said clearly. I've been asking for you. Claire's throat tightened. Hello, Dorothy. Sit, please. I want to talk while my mind is clear. Dorothy patted the chair beside her. These moments don't last long anymore. Claire sat. Thomas stood by the door, watching. Dorothy took Claire's hand. Her skin was soft, paper thin. I need to thank you properly for treating me like a person when I was lost. You don't need to thank me. I do, because I remember everything about that night. The diner, the soup, the shame of not being able to pay, and your face. Dorothy's eyes filled. You looked at me like I mattered. Claire squeezed her hand gently. Dorothy unpinned the brooch from her collar. This belonged to my mother-in-law, Thomas's grandmother. She raised him after his father died. She taught him everything important. Thomas stepped forward. Mom, you don't have to. Hush, Thomas. I'm having a clear moment. Let me use it. Dorothy pressed the brooch into Claire's palm. His grandmother used to say, kindness is the only inheritance worth leaving. I forgot that. For too many years, I forgot. The brooch was heavy, cold. Claire could feel the weight of generations in her hand. I can't accept this, Claire whispered. You already have, and I need you to keep it safe. Because when I'm confused again, when I don't remember my own son's name, Dorothy's voice broke. When that happens, I want to know this brooch is with someone who understands what it means. Claire looked at Thomas. He was crying silently. Dorothy turned to her son. Come here, Thomas. He crossed the room. He knelt beside his mother's chair like a child. I'm sorry, Dorothy said, for the fight, for the cruel things I said about your father's will. I let money poison us. Mom, it's okay. It's not okay. I lost 12 years with you because of pride. She touched his face. But this young woman reminded me what matters. She helped me when I was nothing, a confused stranger, and she lost everything for it. Thomas took his mother's hand. I'm going to make it right, Mom. I promise. Dorothy looked between them. Help each other. Both of you need it. Then her eyes changed. The clarity faded. She looked at Thomas with confusion. Who are you? The lucid moment was over. It had lasted 11 minutes. Thomas's face crumpled. I'm your son, Mom. I'm sorry. I don't remember. Claire stood. She put her hand on Thomas's shoulder. Talk to her about your grandmother, about the brooch, about the things she taught you. Thomas nodded. He pulled a chair closer to his mother. There's a story about Grandma Rose. When I was 7, she took me to a diner. I spilled chocolate milk everywhere. The waitress was angry, but Grandma Rose said, Dorothy's face softened. She didn't remember Thomas, but she remembered the story. Claire stepped into the hallway. She looked at the brooch in her hand. The green stones caught the fluorescent light. A nurse approached. "You're the woman from the diner?" "Yes." "We've never seen her have a lucid episode like that." 11 minutes. "That's remarkable." The nurse paused. "Usually she lasts 3 or 4 minutes maximum." "You're good for her." Claire closed her hand around the brooch. "I'm just a waitress." "You're more than that." When Claire left the facility, Thomas walked her to her car. "Thank you," he said, "for coming, for helping me talk to her." "I didn't do anything. You did everything." Thomas looked exhausted. "Grateful." "Claire, I want you to work with me. Help me with my mother, and let me help you fight Garrett. Not as charity, as partnership." Claire thought of Emma, the eviction, the hate messages, the police investigation. "What if this makes everything worse?" she asked. "Then we fight harder." Claire looked at the brooch in her hand. "Kindness is the only inheritance worth leaving." "Okay," she said. "Let's fight." Thomas's legal team set up in a conference room at his Portland office. 6 lawyers, 2 accountants, 1 forensic investigator. Claire sat at the head of the table feeling completely out of place. Richardson spread documents across the table. "We need everything you know about Garrett's operation. Every detail. Every violation you witnessed." Claire took a breath. "He keeps 2 sets of books. One for the IRS. One for himself." "How do you know?" "I saw them once when I was cleaning his office. The numbers didn't match." "Can you testify to that?" "Yes." For 3 hours, Claire described everything. The stolen tips, the unpaid overtime, the employees fired before benefit qualification, the safety violations, the expired food served to customers, the threats, the fear. The lawyers wrote everything down. "We need more than your testimony," Richard said. "We need documents, witnesses, evidence." "Talk to Miguel, the cook, and Hannah. They've been there longer than me." Thomas made calls. Within 2 days, 5 former Rosewood Diner employees agreed to testify. Then 7. Then 12. Miguel did something brave. He started recording Garrett on his phone. Casual conversations. Arguments about paychecks. Garrett bragging about his tax strategies. "I pay the minimum wage on paper." Garrett's voice came through the speaker. "The rest is cash. The IRS can't track cash." "That's illegal," Miguel said on the recording. "It's smart business." Richard smiled. "That's tax fraud. Clear admission." The forensic accountant pulled Garrett's business records, the IRS filings, the bank statements. He worked for 6 days straight. He owes $340,000 in unpaid payroll taxes, the accountant reported. Going back 5 years, he's been underreporting employee wages and pocketing the difference. Can we prove it? The numbers tell the story. Employee bank deposits don't match his reported wages. The discrepancy is systematic. The team found 17 OSHA violations, broken equipment, expired fire extinguishers, inadequate ventilation, blocked emergency exits. They calculated the stolen tips, $89,000 over 5 years, taken from employees who could barely pay rent. "We have enough for criminal charges," Richard said. "Federal and state, tax evasion, wage theft, labor violations." Claire stared at the documents. 5 years of abuse, dozens of employees, hundreds of thousands in theft. "How did he get away with it this long?" she asked. "Because no one had resources to fight back," Thomas said. "Until now." But Garrett had resources too, and connections. A city council member called Thomas. "I heard you're investigating Garrett's diner. I'd be careful. He's friends with the mayor, with the police chief. This could get messy." "Is that a threat?" "It's friendly advice." The next day, the forensic investigator called. "Someone accessed the Rosewood Diner server remotely last night. They deleted files, financial records, employee data. Someone's destroying evidence." Richard swore. "Garrett knows we're coming." "How?" "Someone warned him. Someone with access to our investigation." Thomas's jaw tightened. "Can we recover the deleted files?" "Some of them. Not all. He's covering his tracks." Claire felt something cold settle in her stomach. He's going to fight back. He's not going to just let this happen. "Let him fight," Thomas said. "We have enough evidence." Witness testimony. Miguel's recordings. The IRS documents. He can delete files, but he can't delete the truth. But Claire knew something Thomas didn't. She knew how small towns worked, how power protected power, how people like Garrett survived by destroying people like her. He's going to come after me, she said quietly, harder than before. Thomas looked at her. Then we'll protect you. You can't protect me from everything. No, but I can make sure you're not alone. Hannah texted that night. Garrett knows about the investigation. He's threatening to fire anyone who talks to lawyers. Miguel's scared. I'm scared, but we're not backing down. Claire responded, thank you for being brave. You were brave first, Hannah wrote back. We're just following your lead. Claire looked at Dorothy's brooch sitting on her nightstand. The green stones seemed to glow in the darkness. Kindness is the only inheritance worth leaving. She was about to find out what that inheritance cost. The lawsuit arrived by courier on a Tuesday morning. Claire signed for it with shaking hands. The envelope was thick, official. The law firm's letterhead was embossed in gold. She opened it. Garrett Hospitality Group versus Claire Patterson. Defamation. Intentional interference with business relations. Conspiracy to defraud. Seeking damages. $500,000. $500,000. Claire's vision blurred. She read the complaint. Page after page of accusations. That she'd fabricated abuse claims. That she conspired with Thomas Caldwell to destroy Garrett's reputation. That she'd lied to investigators. That she'd orchestrated a harassment campaign against a legitimate business owner. The lawsuit named Thomas too. Harassment. Abuse of wealth and influence. Intimidation. Claire called Thomas. Her voice shook. He's suing us. Both of us. $500,000. I saw it. Don't worry about the money. That's a scare tactic. I can't afford to fight a lawsuit. I can't even afford rent. My lawyers will handle it. This is what Garrett does. He attacks. He tries to make you too afraid to keep fighting. But there was more. 2 hours later, Detective Williams called. Miss Patterson, we need you to come back to the station. Mr. Garrett has provided additional evidence in his theft case. Bank records showing deposits to your account that can't be explained. Claire's heart stopped. What deposits? 4 payments, $50 each, made from an LLC registered to Thomas Caldwell. Mr. Garrett's lawyer claims this proves you were working with Mr. Caldwell before the incident at the diner, that you targeted his mother deliberately. That's not true. I never received money from Thomas. The bank records say otherwise. Then someone's lying. Claire called Thomas. Did you make payments to my bank account? Through an LLC. What? No. I wouldn't do that without telling you. Someone did. Garrett's lawyer has records. Thomas went quiet. He forged them. Or he's hacked something. Claire, this is fraud. We can prove it. How long will that take? Weeks. Maybe months. I don't have weeks. The local newspaper ran the story the next day. Front page. Fired waitress under investigation for theft and conspiracy. The article quoted Garrett's lawyer. It mentioned Claire's name 17 times. It mentioned Emma once. Patterson, a single mother, allegedly used her daughter's medical needs to gain sympathy while embezzling from her employer. Claire's phone exploded with messages. Former friends, acquaintances, strangers. I always knew something was off about you. Using your sick kid to steal. That's disgusting. He should be in jail. Emma's school called. Miss Patterson, we need to discuss some concerns. Other parents have been asking questions about the news articles. Some are uncomfortable with Emma remaining in class, given the allegations. My daughter has nothing to do with this. We understand, but we need to consider the safety and comfort of all our students. Are you expelling her? No, but we think it might be best if she takes a temporary leave of absence until this situation resolves. Claire hung up. Her hands were shaking so hard she dropped the phone. Then the final blow arrived. A knock on the door. A woman in a business suit with a briefcase. Claire Patterson? Yes. You've been served. The woman handed her documents and walked away. Claire opened them. Her knees went weak. Emergency petition for custody modification. Petitioners, Robert and Diane Patterson. Paternal grandparents of Emma Grace Patterson. Emma's father's parents. People who'd never met their granddaughter. People who'd refused to help when Claire was pregnant and desperate. They were suing for emergency custody. The petition claimed Claire was unstable, under criminal investigation, unable to provide a safe environment, associating with dangerous individuals, facing homelessness. There was a court date, for days away. Claire read the petition 3 times. Each word felt like a physical blow. They were going to take Emma. She called Thomas. She couldn't speak at first, just gasped for air. Claire, what happened? Emma's grandparents. They're suing for custody. Emergency hearing. For days. We'll fight it. We'll get the best family lawyer. Stop. Claire's voice broke. You need to stop helping me. What? Garrett's right. Everything you've done has made this worse. The investigation. The lawsuit. Now Emma's grandparents think I'm unstable because I'm associated with you. That's what Garrett wants. He wants us to stop fighting. I can't let Emma pay for my pride. Tears streamed down Claire's face. I have to drop this. All of it. I'll apologize to Garrett. I'll say I made it all up. Whatever it takes to get my daughter back. Claire, don't. I'm done, Thomas. Please don't contact me again. I can't lose Emma. I can't. She hung up. She blocked his number. She sat on the floor of her apartment and sobbed until she couldn't breathe. Everything she'd fought for, every moment of resistance, every act of courage, all of it was destroying the only thing that mattered. Emma came home from school. She saw Claire crying on the floor. Mom? Her small voice was terrified. What's wrong? Claire wiped her face. She smiled. It felt like her face would crack. Nothing, baby. Everything's fine. But Emma knew. 6-year-olds always know. Are the mean people going to take me away? Emma whispered. Claire pulled her daughter close. No, never. I promise. It was a lie, and they both knew it. The family court hearing was in a building that smelled like old documents and fear. Claire wore the only professional clothes she owned, a black skirt and white blouse, the same outfit she'd worn to job interviews. Robert and Diane Patterson sat across the courtroom. Emma's grandparents. Claire had met them twice, once at her wedding, once at Emma's father's funeral 5 years after he'd abandoned them. They looked respectable, well-dressed. Their lawyer wore a suit that probably cost more than Claire's car. Claire sat alone. Thomas had tried to call 47 times. She hadn't answered. His lawyer had offered to represent her. She'd refused. This needed to end. The judge entered. An older woman with gray hair and tired eyes. Judge Morrison. She'd been on the family court bench for 23 years. Miss Patterson, you're representing yourself? Yes, Your Honor. Do you understand that's generally not advised in custody cases? I can't afford a lawyer. Judge Morrison looked at the file. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, your petition claims Miss Patterson is unfit due to criminal investigation, housing instability, and dangerous associations. Miss Patterson, how do you respond? Claire stood. Her legs shook. Your Honor, I'm not a criminal. Mr. Garrett filed a false police report because I helped someone he didn't want me to help. The investigation will clear me. How long will that take? I don't know. Where are you currently living? Claire's throat tightened. I received an eviction notice. I have 3 days to vacate. Where will you go? I'm figuring that out. Do you have employment? Not currently, but I'm applying. How will you support Emma without income or housing? Claire's eyes burned. I've always taken care of my daughter. Always. I work double shifts. I skip meals so she can eat. I've never let her go without. Judge Morrison looked at the Patterson's lawyer. What arrangement are your clients proposing? Temporary custody while Miss Patterson resolves her legal and financial situations. We're not seeking permanent termination of rights, just temporary guardianship. Temporary. Like Emma was a library book. Your Honor, Claire said. Her voice cracked. Emma has asthma. She needs her medication twice daily. She has routines. She needs her mother. I understand, Miss Patterson, but the court's primary concern is the child's welfare. I'm her welfare. I'm her mother. The Pattersons' lawyer stood. Your Honor, our clients can provide stability, a home, health care, education. Ms. Patterson is under criminal investigation for theft. She's homeless. She's unemployed. She's associated with individuals who are themselves under investigation. That's not fair, Claire whispered. Judge Morrison looked at the file for a long time. Too long. I'm ordering temporary custody transfer to Mr. and Mrs. Patterson for 30 days. In that time, Ms. Patterson will resolve her housing situation, secure employment, and cooperate fully with a criminal investigation. We'll reconvene in 30 days to reassess. Claire couldn't breathe. Please. Your Honor, please. She's my daughter. I understand this is difficult, Miss Patterson, but the child needs stability. I'm her stability. The gavel came down. Emma was brought from the waiting room. She saw the judge, the lawyers, her grandparents she didn't know. She ran to Claire. Mama, I want to go home. Claire held her. She memorized the weight, the smell of her hair, the feel of her small arms. You're going to stay with your grandparents for a little while, Claire whispered. Just a little while. I don't want to. I want to stay with you. I know, baby. I know. A social worker appeared. Emma, sweetie, we need to go. No. Emma's scream echoed through the courtroom. Mama! They pulled her away. Emma sobbed. Claire stood frozen. Her arms were empty. The courtroom cleared. Claire sat alone on the bench. A bailiff approached. Ma'am, you need to leave. Claire stood. She walked out into harsh daylight. She got in her car. She drove to her apartment. Emma's inhaler sat on the kitchen counter, the one she needed twice daily. Claire picked up her phone. She called the Pattersons' lawyer. Emma needs her inhaler. She needs it morning and night. She also needs her stuffed bear, the blue one. She can't sleep without it. We'll make sure she has everything. Does she have her bear? Mrs. Patterson will take care of her. Claire hung up. She packed Emma's things. The bear, the inhaler, extra medicine, favorite books, clothes. She drove to the Pattersons' house in the wealthy part of town. She left the bag on the porch. She didn't knock. If she saw Emma again, she wouldn't be able to leave. She drove back to the empty apartment. She sat on Emma's bed. The sheet still smelled like her daughter. Claire's phone buzzed. Thomas again. She stared at his name on the screen. She could answer. She could accept help. She could keep fighting. Or she could give up. Call Garrett's lawyer. Apologize. Admit she lied about everything. Get her daughter back by destroying herself. Claire picked up the phone. She unlocked it. She opened her contacts. She scrolled to Garrett's restaurant number. Her finger hovered over the call button. Before Claire could press the button, someone knocked on her door. She opened it. Hannah stood there, Miguel beside her. Behind them, 6 more people. Former Rosewood Diner employees. Current employees. Customers. What are you doing? Hannah asked. Going home. This is over. No, it's not. Hannah pushed past her into the apartment. We're not letting you quit. You don't understand. They took Emma. I have to. We know what you have to do. Fight. Miguel set a laptop on the kitchen table. We've been organizing. All of us. Hannah opened the laptop. 12 current and former employees signed affidavits about Garrett's abuse. We've documented everything. Dates, times, specific violations. That doesn't matter. He has lawyers, money, connections. So do we. Miguel pulled up a video file. Dorothy, Thomas's mom, had another lucid episode yesterday. 20 minutes. She recorded this. He pressed play. Dorothy's face filled the screen. She looked directly at the camera. Her eyes were clear. My name is Dorothy Caldwell. I have early-stage dementia. I don't remember most days anymore. But I remember Claire Patterson, the waitress who treated me with dignity when I was confused and lost. She paid for my meal with money she needed for her own daughter. She was fired for that kindness. And now, people are trying to destroy her for it. Dorothy's hands shook as she held up a document. This is my statement. Claire Patterson is a good person, a good mother. She deserves justice. And I'm asking everyone who sees this to help her fight. The video ended. We posted it 6 hours ago, Hannah said. It has 47,000 views. Claire stared at the screen. How? People are sharing it. Local news picked it up. Someone started a hashtag. Hashtag Justice for Claire. Miguel opened Twitter. Hundreds of tweets. Thousands. People sharing Dorothy's video. People sharing their own stories about Claire. At Cedar Falls Memories. Claire Patterson paid for my grandmother's groceries 3 times when her Social Security was late. She never asked for credit. Hashtag Justice for Claire. At Veteran Advocate, I was homeless, sleeping behind Rosewood Diner. Claire brought me food every night. Said everyone deserves to eat. Hashtag justice for Claire. At Single Mom Strong, Claire covered my shift when my daughter was sick. She worked 18 hours so I could be with my kid. Hashtag justice for Claire. More and more. Claire read through tears. The newspaper is running a correction, Hannah said. They interviewed actual sources. People are turning against Garrett. An older woman stepped forward. Someone Claire recognized from a diner. I've been coming to Rosewood for 15 years. I watched you work. I watched how you treated people, like they mattered. We're testifying at your custody hearing. What custody hearing? The one in 30 days. We're writing letters to the judge. 47 people so far. More coming in every hour. Claire couldn't speak. Miguel showed her another video. Thomas's documentary footage. The night at the diner. Claire helping Dorothy. The firing. Everything. Thomas released this publicly, Miguel said. He broke his documentary rules. He's publishing it because it shows the truth. Your body language. Your hesitation before you paid. Your genuine concern. Everything Garrett claimed was a lie. Hannah pulled up an email. Your nursing school contacted Thomas. They heard what happened. They're offering to reinstate you. Full scholarship. They want you to finish your degree. I can't. I have to. You have to fight, Hannah interrupted. Because if you give up now, Garrett wins. And every other worker he'll abuse after you. Every other person will be too scared to do the right thing. Claire looked at their faces, at the people who'd risked their jobs to support her, at the strangers who'd shared her story, at Dorothy's clear eyes on the laptop screen. What about Emma? She whispered. What about my daughter? We get her back, Hannah said. Together. Miguel handed Claire a folder, the stethoscope, from your locker. Hannah grabbed it before Garrett could throw it out. Claire opened the folder. Her old stethoscope, the symbol of who she used to be. You never stopped being a nurse, Miguel said. You just didn't have the right tools. Now you do. Claire's phone buzzed. Thomas, she answered. Claire, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have pushed you. I should have. Thomas. Her voice was steady. I need your help. We're going to fight. All of us. Together. Silence. And what did you need? Everything. 3 weeks later, Claire stood in the same family courtroom. But this time, she wasn't alone. Richard Chun sat beside her. Thomas's attorney. Behind her, 27 people filled the benches. Hannah, Miguel, Dorothy, customers, former colleagues, community members. The Pattersons sat across the aisle with their lawyer. They looked less confident now. Judge Morrison entered. Miss Patterson, I see you retained counsel. Yes, Your Honor, and I'd like to submit new evidence. Richard stood. Your Honor, we have 47 character witnesses. Employment offer letters from 3 medical facilities. Housing confirmation showing Miss Patterson has secured an apartment. And documentation that the criminal investigation has been dropped due to lack of evidence. The investigation is closed? Yes, Your Honor. The district attorney reviewed the security footage and determined no crime occurred. Mr. Garrett's claims were unfounded. The judge looked at the file. Miss Patterson, you secured employment. Yes, Your Honor. I've been offered a position as a nursing assistant at Oregon Health Sciences while I complete my degree. Full scholarship. I start in 2 weeks. Housing. A 2-bedroom apartment in Cedar Falls. First month's rent paid. Emma will have her own room. Richard pulled out a document. Your Honor, I'd also like to submit this. Miss Patterson's stethoscope from nursing school. She's carried it for 6 years. Even when she was working as a waitress, even when she lost everything else, she kept this. Because she never stopped being a nurse at heart. She never stopped caring for people. Claire took the stethoscope from Richard. She held it up. Your Honor, this represents who I am. Someone who sees people in pain and tries to help. That's why I paid for Dorothy's meal. That's why I lost my job. That's why I fought back. Not for money. Not for revenge. Because my daughter needs to see that doing the right thing matters. Judge Morrison studied the stethoscope. Miss Patterson, what would you say to your daughter about what happened? Claire's throat tightened. I'd tell her that kindness costs something. Sometimes it costs everything, but it's still worth it. Because the alternative is becoming someone who looks away when people need help. and I never want her to be that person. The judge looked at the Pattersons. I appreciate your concern for your granddaughter, but Ms. Patterson has demonstrated clear progress in stabilizing her situation. And more importantly, Emma needs her mother. The gavel came down. Custody is restored to Ms. Patterson, effective immediately. Claire's knees went weak. Behind her, the courtroom erupted in quiet celebration. The Pattersons brought Emma from the waiting room. She saw Claire and ran. "Mama!" Claire caught her daughter. She held her like she'd never let go. "I knew you'd come back," Emma whispered. "I knew you wouldn't give up." Claire kissed her daughter's forehead. Over Emma's shoulder, she met Thomas's eyes. He nodded. She nodded back. They'd survived the crisis. Now came justice. The Cedar Falls City Council chambers were packed. Every seat filled. People lined the walls. Local news cameras set up in the back. Claire sat in the front row beside Richard Chin. Thomas sat 2 rows behind with Dorothy. Miguel and Hannah sat with 12 other former Rosewood Diner employees. Garrett sat at the respondents' table with 2 lawyers in expensive suits. He wore a navy blazer and khaki pants, the outfit of a respectable small business owner. His face was calm, confident. Council President Janet Morrison called the meeting to order. "We're here to consider the business license renewal for Rosewood Diner. Mr. Garrett, you have the floor." Garrett stood. He faced the council with practiced sincerity. "Thank you. I've operated Rosewood Diner for 6 years. I've provided jobs, served the community, paid my taxes." He paused. "Recently, a former employee has made false accusations against me. She's being supported by a billionaire who wants to take over my property. This isn't about justice. It's about bullying. It's about using money and influence to destroy a small business owner who can't fight back." His voice cracked. "I'm asking this council to see through this attack, to protect local businesses from wealthy outsiders who think they can buy whatever they want." Several council members nodded. Claire's stomach tightened. Richard Chin stood. "Council members, we'd like to present evidence." For the next 40 minutes, Richard laid out the case. Financial records showing unpaid payroll taxes totaling $340,000. 17 documented OSHA violations. Testimonies from 12 employees describing wage theft, stolen tips, and systematic abuse. The forensic accountant presented charts, numbers, bank records. The evidence was overwhelming. Then Claire took the stand. She walked to the microphone. Her hands shook. She gripped the podium. "My name is Claire Patterson. I worked at Rosewood Diner for 3 years." Her voice was steady, clear. "I watched Mr. Garrett steal from employees who could barely afford rent. I watched him threaten people who questioned his practices. I watched him create an environment of fear." She looked directly at Garrett. He stared back without expression. "You taught me something important, Mr. Garrett. You taught me that power without compassion is just cruelty with a paycheck. You had power over desperate people, and you used it to take everything you could." Garrett's jaw tightened. "I helped an elderly woman pay for her meal. That was my crime. I showed compassion to someone who needed it, and you destroyed me for it." Claire's voice didn't waver. "But you couldn't destroy the truth. You couldn't destroy the 12 other people who are brave enough to testify today. You couldn't destroy the community that sees you for what you are." She stepped back from the microphone. Miguel stood. "Council members, I have something you need to hear." He pulled out his phone. He connected it to the speakers. Garrett's voice filled the room. "I pay them minimum wage on paper. The rest is cash. The IRS can't track cash." Miguel's voice, "That's illegal." Garrett's laugh. "It's smart business." The recording continued. 5 minutes of Garrett admitting to tax fraud, wage theft, deliberate violations. The room erupted. Council members leaned forward. Garrett's lawyers whispered urgently. Then the community spoke. An elderly woman stood. "Garrett fired my grandson 3 days before his benefits kicked in. This happened to my grandson twice." A young mother. "He docked my pay because I took too long in the bathroom. I was pregnant. I needed to use the restroom." A veteran. "He threw me out of the diner for asking for water. Called me a bum. Claire brought me food that night. Every night after." One after another. Stories of abuse, exploitation, cruelty. Garrett sat frozen. His confident mask cracked. Council President Morrison banged the gavel. We've heard enough. Council will vote. The vote was unanimous. 5-0. Rosewood Diner's business license is hereby revoked effective immediately, Morrison announced. Additionally, we're referring this case to the Oregon Department of Justice for a criminal investigation. Garrett's face went white. His lawyers stood. Council President, we'd like to appeal. You have that right. But the license revocation stands pending appeal. Richardson approached the microphone. Council members, there's one more matter. Mr. Garrett's property and building are currently in foreclosure due to unpaid business loans. The bank intends to auction the property next month. Morrison nodded. That's outside our jurisdiction. I understand, but I wanted to inform the council that the property has been purchased. The room went silent. Purchased by whom? Morrison asked. Thomas Caldwell stood. He walked to the front of the room. Cameras turned toward him. By me. I purchased the property, the building, and all associated assets this morning. Thomas looked at Claire. But I'm not keeping it. Claire's breath caught. What was he doing? I'm transferring ownership to Claire Patterson. She'll operate it as Dorothy's Table, a community diner that will provide job training for displaced workers, fair wages, and free meals for seniors 3 days a week. The room erupted. People stood. Applause. Gasps of surprise. Claire couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Thomas continued. I'll provide startup capital. Claire will provide the vision. This isn't charity. It's partnership. It's what this community deserves. He turned to Claire. If you'll accept. Claire stood slowly. Her legs shook. She walked to where Thomas stood. I can't let you give me a restaurant, she said quietly. I'm not giving you anything. He'll earn it. He'll build it. I'm just providing the foundation. Thomas held out a folder. Partnership agreement. You own 51%. You make all operational decisions. I'm a silent investor. That's the deal. Claire took a folder. She opened it. The documents were real, legal, already signed by Thomas. She looked at Dorothy sitting in the front row, at Miguel and Hannah, at the community members who'd fought for her, at Emma's drawing of a restaurant taped inside the folder. Thomas must have asked Emma what her mom's dream looked like. This isn't just about me, Claire said. This is about everyone Garrett hurt. I know. That's why you're perfect for this. Claire signed the document. Her hand shook, but her signature was clear. The room exploded in applause. Garrett stood abruptly. His chair clattered backward. He stormed toward the exit. Reporters followed him. Cameras flashed. He was done. Claire stood, holding the folder, the deed to her future, the weight of responsibility, the gift of a second chance. Thomas extended his hand. Partners? Claire shook it. Partners. 1 week later, Claire stood in front of Judge Morrison again. But this time, everything was different. The custody hearing. The final one. Claire wore a professional suit. She bought it yesterday. Her first purchase as a restaurant owner. She sat with Richardson. Behind her, the courtroom was packed again. Richard presented new evidence. Your Honor, Ms. Patterson now owns and operates Dorothy's Table restaurant. She has 17 employees, stable income, and a 2-bedroom apartment. She's also enrolled in nursing school, completing her degree online. He submitted a stack of papers. These are community support letters, 347 of them, from customers, employees, community members, all attesting to Ms. Patterson's character and parenting. Judge Morrison looked through them. Her expression softened. Your Honor, I'd also like to call Dorothy Caldwell to testify. Dorothy walked slowly to the witness stand. Thomas helped her sit. She looked fragile, but her eyes were clear. Mrs. Caldwell, you have dementia, correct? Yes. Early stage. I have good days and bad days. Today is a good day. Can you tell the court about Claire Patterson? Dorothy smiled. Claire saved my life. Not just that night at the diner. She taught my son how to see me again, how to care for me. She has more medical knowledge than most of the professionals I've worked with, and more compassion than anyone I've met. Do you think she's a good mother? I think she's exactly the kind of mother every child deserves. She fights for what's right even when it costs everything. Richard nodded. Thank you, Mrs. Caldwell. The Pattersons' lawyer stood. Robert and Diane sat at their table looking uncomfortable. Your Honor, our clients would like to withdraw their petition. Judge Morrison looked up sharply. On what grounds? They realized their concerns were based on false information provided by Mr. Garrett. Ms. Patterson has demonstrated exceptional character and capability. Our clients wish to establish a relationship with their granddaughter, but they no longer seek custody. Claire's throat tightened. She looked at Emma sitting with Hannah in the gallery. Her daughter watched with wide eyes. Judge Morrison reviewed the documents. Ms. Patterson, full custody is restored. The police investigation record is expunged. You have full legal clearance. The gavel came down. Emma ran from the gallery. She launched herself into Claire's arms. We want mama? We want baby. Thomas stood in the back of the courtroom. Dorothy beside him. She was smiling, lucid, present. For the first time in months, she looked like herself. Thomas met Claire's eyes across the room. She mouthed 2 words, thank you. He nodded. He held his mother's hand. Some victories weren't about winning. They were about remembering what mattered. If you've been waiting to see justice served, if you've been rooting for Claire since that first night at the diner, then subscribe to this channel right now. Because the most important part of her story is just beginning. Let's see what she builds next. Dorothy's table opened on a Tuesday morning in May. The rain had stopped. Sunlight streamed through the newly installed windows. Claire stood behind the counter wearing a clean apron. Her name was embroidered on it in blue thread. The restaurant smelled like fresh coffee and baking bread. The booths had been reupholstered. The floors refinished. The neon sign outside now read Dorothy's Table in warm gold letters. Inside, photographs lined the walls. Community members, employees, stories of resilience. Booth 7, where Dorothy had sat that first night, had a small brass plaque mounted on the wall beside it. Kindness served here. Miguel worked the kitchen. He was head chef now. Salary, benefits, profit sharing. He'd hired 2 assistants and was training them properly. Hannah managed the day shift. She'd enrolled in business school online. Claire was paying her tuition, an investment in her future manager. Dorothy worked 3 days a week as the official greeter. She wore her Cartier brooch pinned to her cardigan. She couldn't remember every customer's name anymore, but she remembered their faces, their kindness. And on her clear days, she told stories about the night a waitress paid for her soup and changed everything. The dementia was progressing. That was inevitable, but the routine helped. The familiar environment, the purpose. Her doctors said she'd stabilized. The decline had slowed. Emma helped bus tables after school. She wore a miniature apron that matched Claire's. She'd learned to carry trays without dropping them. She'd learned that hard work meant something, that her mother's kindness wasn't weakness. It was strength. Claire had completed her nursing degree 2 weeks ago. The diploma hung in her office, right next to the eviction notice she'd framed as a reminder. She worked 4 days at the restaurant, 2 days doing home healthcare visits for elderly patients. She used both her skill sets, feeding people, healing people, seeing people. The restaurant served 200 customers daily. Breakfast, lunch, early dinner. 3 days a week, seniors ate free. No questions asked. No shame attached. 17 employees work there now. Single mothers, former addicts, people with criminal records who couldn't get hired elsewhere. Claire gave them training, dignity, second chances. The restaurant wasn't just profitable. It was necessary. Thomas visited every Thursday. He ordered coffee in Mandarin. Claire responded in Spanish. Dorothy laughed at their language games. His relationship with his mother had transformed. He knew her stories now, her history, the woman she'd been before the disease. He'd lost 12 years, but he wasn't losing any more time. The documentary had premiered at Sundance. The Invisible Economy won the Audience Award. It told Claire's story, but more than that, it told the story of America's service workers, the invisible people who kept the country running. Claire's restaurant became a symbol, proof that compassion could build something sustainable. The booth where Dorothy sat that first night was always reserved for people who needed it. The elderly, the confused, the forgotten. Kindness served here. Every single day, Thomas and Claire never defined what they were to each other. Not employers. Not quite friends. Something more complicated. Something built on shared trauma and mutual respect. Some relationships didn't need labels. On a Thursday afternoon, a new employee dropped a tray of dishes. 8 plates shattered across the floor. The young woman, barely 20, a single mother named Sophia, froze in terror. Claire appeared before anyone could react. "Accident happened," Claire said calmly. "Everyone breaks dishes when they're learning. Let me show you the right way to carry a full tray." She helped Sophia clean up. She demonstrated proper technique. She smiled with patience. Sophia's eyes filled with grateful tears. Emma watched from booth 7. She saw her mother choose kindness. Again, always, the cycle continued. Dorothy smiled from her greeter station. Some days she didn't remember Claire's name, but she always remembered that feeling, being treated like she mattered. That memory stayed clear. Sometimes one act of kindness echoes longer than we'll ever know. Claire didn't just save Dorothy that day. She saved herself, her daughter, and an entire community. She proved that doing the right thing, even when it costs everything, is always worth it. Because compassion isn't weakness. It's the strongest force in the world. If this story moved you, subscribe to this channel for 3 new stories every week about ordinary people who changed everything. Drop a comment about a time someone's kindness changed your life. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for witnessing Claire's journey. Thank you for believing that kindness matters.